how would I describe the democracy or what is happening in West Africa? Coming from a policy background, we in the policy space, there is a school of thought that is emerging called catanomics. And catanomics. Yes, catanomics. And I would like to borrow from there to describe what is happening within West Africa. For them, they believe that there is the absence of policy accountability. For instance, we have what we call political accountability, where if at the end of the 4 years a government does not perform to satisfaction, we have the chance to vote the government out. But then what happens to the policies or the projects that the government started? When a new government comes, they are either thrown away or we don't even hear of them. And that is the lack or the absence of policy accountability that we have. A perfect example is what is happening in respect to the Afari military hospital. It has been there since. Governments have gone, governments have come. But then it is there. We are pumping public money into it, public resources into it. But then it's almost like we don't know what is happening, who is going to complete it. And if you look across Ghana and across West Africa, there are a number of such projects. Not only in Ghana, Burkina Faso, Togo, Ivory Coast. It's more or less like an African problem. And so we in the civil society, from that policy perspective, believe that what is happening is an absence of policy accountability. We have the political accountability, but then the policy accountability is absence. And that is why we call it catanomics. And so you can go online, Google catanomics, and you will find what we try to mean. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think these responses have given us a strong sense of the landscape that we want to discuss this evening. So we'll go straight into it. And John, I'd like to begin with you again. You have studied democratic attitudes and public views for so many years. And I've known John, to be a strong voice on democracy issues in Ghana and beyond. But across West Africa, I think all of us know that we've seen very troubling military takeovers in countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and a few others. And even in these cases, we've seen the public sort of supporting the juntas as in the military takeover. So the question is, what does this tell us about the relationship between citizens and democracy today?
So there appears to be a paradox, in my opinion, in the relationship between citizens and democracy. And that paradox sometimes feels like there's a tension in the minds of citizens trying to resolve the question of what do we really want from this democracy. So let me give you a couple of examples. And most of the key instrument I use in looking at citizens' attitudes about democracy and democratic governance is the Afrobarometer survey. So if you are not familiar with it, I'll strongly encourage you to take a look at it. Because that's where you start seeing that tension and that paradox emerge. So I'll give you an example. Consistently, in Ghana and even across our West African neighbors, support for democracy is very high, right? In the most recent Afrobarometer survey, 7 out of 10 Ghanaians say democracy is preferable to any other form of government. So we want democracy, but the things that make democracy work, like active citizenship, we fall very short. So in AB, when you ask how often do you contact your member of parliament, how often do you contact your assemblyman or woman, right? The numbers are very low. So we want democracy, but it's as though we don't want to do the things that would sustain democracy. That's one paradox. Elections, for example. So consistently in Afrobarometer, at least 7 out of 10 would say we prefer to choose our leaders through elections. But trust in the Electoral Commission, right, your key election management body, is very low. There is also a question about how well do you think elections allow you to remove unrepresentative leaders, things like that, right? So for people who really want elections and really support elections, you see that sort of disconnect. We don't think that our MPs listen. We don't think that our members of our assemblymen and women listen. So that's the paradox in terms of the relationship between citizens and democracy across the region. We do want it, but it's as though we are not sure what we should do to be able to sustain it.
Right, and John, still staying with you as a follow-up. So would you say that with this paradox that you just explained, would you say citizens are rejecting democracy itself, or we are rejecting the way democracy has been delivered over the years?
I believe it's the latter. And so when the question of military rule keeps coming up, and I remember when the leader of Burkina Faso got a big round of applause at the inauguration of John Mahama in 2025. It generated this conversation of perhaps we really want military rule, but we really don't. If you look at the empirical evidence, and again, that is part of also that paradox, right? So yes, in a place like Ghana, support for or rejection of military rule has softened, right? It's gone from about 80-something% in round 1, 1999, to about 60-something%. But at the same time, when you are asked, in the event that an intervention happens, what should we do? Majority still say we should transition, whether immediately or over time, back to military rule. So the pinch points we are experiencing is not about democracy.
John, back to military rule or
Yeah.
back to civilian rule?
Back to civilian rule, sorry. So the pinch points we are experiencing is not with democracy itself, right? Our pinch points about the way democracy is working, the issues of representation, the issues of whether our elected representatives listen to us, the issues about whether there's rule of law where big man, small man, big person, small person, we all get held accountable. And the biggest thing is the dividends of democracy. I always say that democracy is more than just the freedoms that we are guaranteed. People also want democracy to address the bread and butter issues as well. Jobs, security, healthcare, education. And so that is, for me, the core of the challenges we are experiencing. It's not that we reject democracy, but we are struggling to see how it is delivering on these everyday issues that we face.
Right, thank you very much. And I think, Ransford, I'll bring you in here. Many citizens say democracy is important, and I think John has just explained that perfectly. Yet, you'll find citizens expressing frustrations with issues like corruption, public service delivery, and accountability. So, the question is, can democracy remain strong when citizens feel like governments or government institutions are not delivering results? Does democracy stand a chance?
Well, so let me just take off from where Dr. ended, right? So the big question is that what can democracy actually afford us? Okay, because if you go to China, where quote unquote it is more of an autocratic regime, okay, and China is able to lift its citizens from extreme poverty, and you come back to Ghana, okay, and we have not been able to do so, then you ask yourself, what has democracy afforded us? And so for me, I have the feeling that when we talk about democracy, it's more or less like a fiat currency. In fact, some institutions see democracy as just a value, right? And it is only as strong as what citizens ascribe to it. You see, when you talk about fiat currency, it's governments giving it backing that use it. I mean, this is our currency, okay? And it's more or less, democracy is also just like that. If the citizens find value in it, then they would believe in it. But if they don't, then we are on a very shaky ground. But then, is it just Ghana? That is the question. And so I took my time to look at what is happening around the world. In 2024, almost half of the world's population went for elections, okay, in those countries that practice democracy. And you could see that for the first time, more people in the world were going to the polls. Now, what was the outcome? You found that some of them voted for populist governments that were far right, promising to cut immigration or to end immigration, cut spending because they were spending recklessly and all of that. Okay, so globally, if you look at what is happening around democracy, it is not working, quote unquote, for a lot of people, and Ghana is not an exception, right? Democracy is also backsliding. If you look at what is happening in the world, trust in government is falling. It's the same thing that we have in Ghana. Okay, corruption is going down. Politicians are also failing people. In fact, we rarely have choices. So, for example, in our just ended election, it was more or less like the people that we knew that were repackaged and then presented to us. More or less like there were no choices because we knew them already. Okay, so it was just more or less like just gambling on these people. Okay, so if you look at what is happening in the world, it's not just Ghana. It is worldwide, and that is worrying. And that calls on us to act so that it doesn't become like what's the gains that we've consolidated over the years. We let it slide away because we've made a lot of progress. I mean, I was born in 1994, and that was the time that our democracy was taking off. And I have loved to live in the 2000s. Come on, I can't pick my phone and then go online and then chat a little bit. Okay, I have the opportunity to sit with the adults to talk about what our country or the future of our country. I mean, that is the kind of freedom that democracy affords us, to be able to participate in the future of your country. And so going back, I don't think I would want to live in the 80s or in the 70s with my big mouth. I don't think so.
Thank you, Ransford. And no, still staying with you, let's talk about the economy and how it's related to democracy. Do you think economic frustration is becoming a democratic risk?
So, economic frustration is a risk to every system.
Right.
Every system. Just that democracy becomes a tool, okay, to voice out your concern when there is frustration. Fix the country. It was because of democracy that is why these people were able to come out. Occupy Ghana. Because of democracy that is why these people were able to come out. Elsewhere, you wouldn't have that opportunity. You shout, they will capture you, they will come for you. In the plane, they will come for you. As soon as you land, in your room, they will come for you. They will disappear you. But unfortunately for us, hardly does that happen. I mean, even if they come for you, they give you some knocks and then they'll bring you back. Right? So yes, we just enjoy it like this. So for economic frustration, there's a risk to every political system. But then let's take democracy as a tool for expressing that frustration, right? Yes. And it becomes an avenue for policy accountability. Because the more we talk, the more they listen, and then they can't just ignore their voices anymore.
Policy accountability, that's a very good point. And I think I'd like to bring you here, Mrs. Gideon Williams, Auntie, because I think it's important to discuss the security dimension as well. And the reason I say this is because democracy and security are often discussed separately. We often fail to see the link. In your experience, how closely are they connected? Democracy and security.
Okay, I think everybody here would say they are inseparable. In fact, we talk about them together. And I like the word, they just use, they will disappear you. If you keep disappearing people in the country, they will rise up against you, and democracy will come there. And so democracy is a system of governance. It is supposed to deliver some goods like my co-panelists have just said. And so one of those key goods is security. If you look at the issues in Burkina Faso, look at the issues in Mali, we have these coup d'etat because people feel insecure because of violent extremism. That rebels, insurgents have taken half of the country, like Burkina Faso. And so even the military feels so insecure that they take over the government and say, you cannot rule us. Democracy is not helping because the people are feeling insecure. They take over the government. That's what security does. We have DR Congo now. Okay, that's out of West Africa. That's a huge insecurity there. And that is threatening also the democracy. And so democracy, security is democracy, if you ask me. And as someone who works in the security field, I also work alongside democracy, promoting people's participation in governance. When you look at what happened in Sierra Leone, for instance, where, the Sierra Leone war was led by young people who felt marginalized, who felt that the government was led by elites who were robbing them of the dividends of their diamond. And so, with some kind of help, they rose up against their state. That's insecurity, economic insecurity. When you're talking about human security, we have so many types of security: economic security, educational security. All of those come together to form human security. And when the human being feels insecure, just like animals, we react. We stand up for ourselves. And we want a governance system that can guarantee us our security as human beings, our dignity. And so that governance system must give us value, like we are saying, economic value, psychological value, health values. We must, I don't like it when it rains and we are walking in mud and we are driving and we see people walking carefully. It's so dehumanizing for me. And those are the things that one day somebody will say, enough of this. Somebody will say, enough of this. But I'm very happy that we still have 7 over 10 people believing in democracy. And that's why maybe we're having this conversation, to ensure that it doesn't slide. And so democracy and security goes hand in hand. They are inseparable. And we must see them sometimes. And that's why we move from what we call state security to human security. Because we normally have attached some kind of state or political dynamics to security, where security is supposed to protect those who are governing, okay? And so security is supposed to be protecting the president and all of those things. But we have moved from that stage to say, no, security is supposed to protect the population. And so that when the security is state-centric, it's elite-centric, it's politician-centric, centered on the security, the people will rise up one day. And so that's why we moved it, shifted the focus of security to human security, where we are looking at the individual, every individual, and whether all their security needs are met, so that we can have a safe community and country. And so democracy as a system of governance is so crucial to security, and security is crucial to democracy.
Thank you so much. I think this question was a bit similar to what I asked Ransford, but do you think that democracy again can stand if a large section of its population feel they are excluded from decision making. Ransford had looked at the economic frustration part, but if we feel we are not part of the decision making, do you think it affects democracy?
Yeah, I just mentioned the situation in Liberia where young people felt excluded and marginalized. And that's why, as a security organization, one of our key focus is young people. Sometimes when you are driving in the night, not in the night, but from 4 or 5 p.m. along, in fact, East Legon here, to the Opebia Road, and you see teeming young people on the streets. And nowadays, when they try to wipe your window and you say no, they insult you. And when you have the privilege of seeing what these young people do during the day, you get scared. And you realize that Ghana, we are sitting on the time bomb. And we've been saying this, we are sitting on the time bomb. Because when democracy is not providing the dividends, as they said, the economic dividends, where people have the opportunity to go to school. And that's why I like PSHS, it's not political, but I believe that everybody should be in school one way or the other. But when young people are not in school, and I think last year with the statistics department, we have 25% of young people falling within the needs. That is, they are not in school, they are not in education, they are not in employment, they are not in training. 25%. So it means when you take 5 or 4 young people, one of them is doing nothing, and that is scary. Or what would they do? What did they do during the night? What did they do when they are not doing or begging by the roadside? And that is robbery, that is criminal activities, and that is actually it's sorry, but I'm trying to find the very it's really scary. It's scary for them as young people, for their future, and for individuals like us who are worried about our own safety and our own security. And so democracy must provide and must produce the dividends for all, and especially young people. And we have a democracy where I think we'll come to that, where young people are marginalized. Look at all the boards we have. I mean, big boards, even with education or even with the sectors that are supposed to be taking care of young people, like maybe the National Youth Authority. We did a lot of advocacy. In fact, we did a lot of advocacy for young people now to be admitted onto the National Youth Authority board, to include at least 3 young people out of the 15. Yes, it took a lot of work. How many young people are, for instance, on education boards? How many young people are on National Peace Council? That's another advocacy I'm doing now. How many young people are on National Peace Council board? How many young people are on boards that concern young people? No, they are not there. So where are their voices? Who is talking to them? Who is listening to them? Maybe during political party or during election, we say we are doing manifesto and we talk to Okada riders and things, that kind of thing. But those are all shenanigans. I mean, we need to do the real work and involve young people truly, so we don't have situations like we had in Sierra Leone. Now is an issue of women. We have a parliament that has 40% or 40-something% of women, when we have over 50% of the population being young people, being women. It's even more terrible at the district assembly, where we have less than 4%, or just about 4% of women represented at the district assembly level. And that's democracy. But are women not part of the democracy? Are they not part of the population? They are not there, but they have concerns. They experience every other thing differently, and yet they are not there. And so when we marginalize and we don't create a path or the pathways for all of these, I mean, people with disability, all of these different demographics to participate actively in the democratic processes, we have problems.
Thank you so much. And I think at this point, we should turn our attention to why Ghana matters. Remember, we are talking about how Ghana can be a democratic anchor in West Africa. So why does Ghana matter in this conversation, and John, I come back to you. The thing is, Ghana has held 8 consecutive elections, something we're very proud of, and we've experienced multiple peaceful transfers of power. But the question is, beyond elections, what evidence suggests that Ghana's democracy, one, is either succeeding or in reality is falling short?
So when you look at, just like you mentioned, when you look at Ghana's democracy, the biggest thing that always comes up is the electoral part of our democracy. We've had 8, 9 successful elections. We've had 4 turnovers between our 2 major parties without any issues. So that actually becomes the envy. I was recently in Kenya, and when the Ghanaian delegation was introduced, someone from another African country says, "Oh wow, there's a lot we can learn from Ghana. Ghana's democracy is advanced. Ghana's democracy is doing so well," right? But on the electoral side, yes, it's even reflected in the key democracy indices. If you look at the democracy index, if you look at VDEM, all of those things, we score well on electoral participation, elections, and all of those things. So that I will give Ghana a lot of credit for. I think where we are still struggling to deepen our democracy is institutions, right? The rule of law, the way institutions behave so that they can actually get citizens to build enough trust in them. My key worry, whenever I reflect on Ghana's democracy, is that I feel like we put too much faith in turnover elections, right? So you actually sometimes can feel the citizens' frustration, like you can feel the democracy stretching and stretching. And then we have a turnover election, and it just seems like, to borrow the president's words, it sort of resets the system. So we think we are okay. Then years go by, and the tensions start building, the frustrations with the democratic system starts growing. But then we have a turnover election, and we sort of find a way to get back to equilibrium. My concern is what happens the day when we get stretched and the turnover election doesn't do the trick for us. So yes, quite a number of very positive achievements, liberalization of the political space, media has grown, all of those things, some key basic freedoms. Like Raswa said, we can sit here, gather, and have these conversations. But there are other things that hasn't yet deepened. The last thing I'll mention is, and it hasn't deepened because if you look at one of the trusted sources for democracy data, the VDEM Institute's data, Ghana all of a sudden has shifted from being described as a liberal democracy now back to an electoral democracy. And one of the things VDEM is pointing out is that it has to do with things around the rule of law, the independence of institutions. So we score well on political participation and all of those things. That's why now VDEM classifies us as an electoral democracy, because we do well on things elections related.
Thank you so much, John. And Ransford, I'll move quickly to you. And my question is, has political polarization become one of the greatest threats to Ghana's democratic future? If you can break down for us.
Yeah, polarization. The second one is laughing. It's actually one of the topics that we kind of talk about a lot. And sometimes I disagree with him, and probably that is why he's laughing. Yeah, when it comes to polarization, I want to believe that is a creation of the system that we have. Okay. I mean, for every action there is a reaction. Yes. So we wanted multi-party system. We started the elections, 2 parties dwelt on their roots and were able to institutionalize. They were able to go to the ward branches, try to mobilize the people. Now they have up to even the polling station level where they have executives. For our information, there are about 40,000 or more than 40,000 polling stations. So if a political party is able to at least get 5 people representing it at the polling station level, you can imagine the amount of work that goes into it. Now the question is that should we punish such a political party for doing that work? Okay, that is one. And then again, when it comes to partisan politics, it has to do with identity. People would identify with a particular political party. And when that happens, there is what you call negative and positive partisanship that comes with it. Negative in the sense that when I see that you're not part of my party, I do not really regard you, right? And positive partisanship means that I have a strong attachment to my political party. And that is just obvious. It is going to happen. And so the question I was asking is, should we punish the political parties for what they have done? For me, it is no. Then again, if you look at political parties or partisanship, there is the argument in defense of political parties that they are very creative people. Look at the policies that some of these political parties have been bringing, especially the slogans: free SHS, 24-hour economy, big push. I mean, have you sat down to imagine the kind of creativity that goes into that? Okay, and so and they are also morally distinctive. Okay, I mean, if they come to you and they come and then campaign, you don't agree, do they beat you? No, nobody forces anything on your neck. Even on the D-Day, when they pass something small into your hands, it is between you and your God in the ballot box. You get it? Yes, I teach government, and some of my students will tell you, oh, say, you're making it easy. You get it? So, for me, this is the kind of thing that we've created. And so we shouldn't be punishing ourselves for it. Now, that comes to my third point. In this case, we find ourselves in a kind of democracy called agonism. Yes, agonism, where it is a democracy of contestation, of conflict. And in this case, conflict becomes a good for the society. One, because you talk about something different, I also bring a different idea. And so we kind of contest. And that is the kind of thing that we see on our TV stations, on our radio stations, where political parties throw jabs at each other. Now, what is actually missing is that we do not have a mediator. Because this is a system that we've created for ourselves. And agonism requires a mediator, someone to stand in between to make sure that those policies are fleshing. For instance, if NPP is saying that we are going to bring free SHS and NDC is saying that we want to do something called progressively free senior high school, how do you bridge the two? It takes the role of a mediator to do that. And that is what is missing in our system. The question is that can the NDPC do that, the National Development Planning Commission? Can they do that? Then, when I was coming, I thought about this. The Yansan Institute for Strategic Dialogue, does it or would it be able to mediate between this conflict? Because if we are talking about strategic dialogue, it means that bringing both parties into the room, let them jab at each other, but then be in the middle, make sure that nobody hurts anybody. In a war of words, we're able to get the best option. Okay, I did a very small study for my thesis, and I found out that even among staunch partisans, they somewhat agree that whenever they are talking about policies, at least some independent opinion should be considered. And even those that consider themselves independent, they also agree that partisan views sometimes are best because they are contested. And so this is a system that we've created for ourselves, and I think that we should make it work. We shouldn't punish ourselves for creating such a system. we should find solutions to the problems that are emerging. Dr. Zakapon will tell you that if affiliation for political parties are going down, it's more or less like an asset to democracy. I don't think so.
We're gonna have to spend the whole day debating this, but I think at this point I'd like to bring in Mrs. Auntie. In your earlier submission, I heard you talk passionately about the youth. So the thing is that young people make up the majority of West Africa's population, I think even Africa's population by extension. Yet, and I think you've already hit on this, many young people feel disconnected from formal politics. Formal politics. What risk does this pose, once again, for democratic stability?
Okay, so the risk it poses is, again, I'll give you the example in Niger, one of the recent coup d'etats where people were clapping for coup d'etats. Yeah, so that's the risk it poses, where we dance and clap when there is an unconstitutional technical government. And so that's a big risk. But the question also is whether we have created a system where young people can participate in democracies. And so currently in Ghana's parliament, we have only one person who is, okay, I think he turns 35 this year or something. And you know that the definition of young person, according to the Ghana youth policy, is between 15 and 35. And so when you are maybe the one who declared is
Yes.
Yeah, so above 35, you are no more a young person. And so I think we have Magbena exactly as the only legally young person in our parliament. But because of that, there's the extension to 45 for those in parliament to consider that across Africa. But truly, if you look at our political systems, and the lecturers and political analysts will tell you the kind of systems we write there, winner takes all, as they describe it, the first come, first serve, and all of those things. And you see that young people hardly have a chance. Ask how much does it cost to run for primaries? How much does it cost? How much does it cost to run for primaries? Just the primaries interpolitical or intrapolitical before you go for the elections itself, and I think CDD has done some research around that, and the cost is available, over 200 million Ghana cedis and things like that. How many young people within 15 and 35, or let's say for legal age 18 and 35 can afford that? And even before you come to registering or with the EC, and how much does it cost? And so all of those things do not allow young people. And then we also have a situation where when we say democratic backsliding, and in my work, working with young people, you see that, in fact, last time a group of young people called us, oh, these days, because you have not been doing a lot of activities for us, we are quiet. But for Fix the Country that came out, and now we have seen that they have also received a bit. But for that, you see that you don't see a lot of active youth in this democratic space. No, we don't see that. Why? Because even when young people speak, who hears them? And how far does our voices go in democracies? How far when we criticize governments or when we do advocacies? Sometimes they will say, oh, you do it for maybe a few days and everything will be over. They'll keep quiet. They say Ghanaians forget. And so when our voices don't seem to matter, and when young people's voices don't seem to matter in democratic processes, they of course, they also resent, and they don't participate as actively as they should. Plus all the stumbling blocks we put on their way. And so young people's participation in our democracy is very, very challenging. It's actually not there. Like I said, we only have one person, and most of the time what we know is to use them as foot soldiers. And I think when it comes to young people as foot soldiers, as macho men, as political tags, you see, giving them drugs, giving them money, giving them guns to protect the elites and the politicians, then we know that young people matter. But when it comes to proper discourse and proper policy engagements, like I mentioned earlier, the boards, where are the young people on those places? And so we are not actually also preparing young people enough for these things. And more young people are seeing politics as a money-making venture. I think, and I hope that you all agree, that more and more young people are seeing politics as money-making venture. I know young people who say, oh, I know this guy, when their party came into power, now I know he's got a house. Those things, we hear them, but that is the reality. And so we have the Tesco's, and then the other ones at the university. And when young people are there, they are not there for the political discourse or for the politics, but they are there for opportunities to make money, because the system is not giving them that opportunity. And so they are looking for those avenues. And that's why we have such huge corruptions in the country. And so it is a mixed bag, but we need to create the spaces, the opportunities, the pathways for young people to actively participate in democracy.
Right. Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for our panelists. They've been great so far. And our audience, please, we've not forgotten about you. I just think we should take this last round of questions, and then we'll open up the floor for those of us who may have questions. So please prepare your questions ahead. But let's look at Ghana's regional role in being a democratic anchor for the sub-region. And I think the question I want all of us to think about is, if Ghana is to serve as a democratic anchor, then the question becomes, anchor for what and how? Anchor for what and how? So, John, I'm back on your case. Senegal recently demonstrated democratic resilience, as we saw, despite significant political tensions. I think the question is, are there any lessons that we can take from countries like Senegal that our country as Ghana and even countries in West Africa should pay attention to?
So I think one of the key lessons from Senegal is the power of active citizenship. And it's not even just the power of active citizenship, but the ability of different organizations within the civic space to be able to come together, coordinate, and push back against a particular elite agenda. So for me, that is one of the key things, which is why I also like the work of WADEMOS, the West Africa Democracy Solidarity Group, right? In the sense that they use it as a coordinating mechanism to work across the West African region, engage with other partners, other members of civil society to raise issues, questions, concerns about the state of democracy, what kinds of things can you do from the civil society and to be able to continue to protect democracy in the region. One of the things that, and the last thing I'll add is, one of the things that Ghana can do is, we need to look at how we can translate the lessons of why we have respected term limits right? Since 1992, you don't see us trying to fidget with term limits like other countries, some of our neighbors or even outside of West Africa have tried to do. And I think our anchoring role can also be built around that, which is what kinds of things have incentives have we put in place to get our political elites to respect something like term limits, and then combine that with active citizenship through organizations like what it was, to become that anchor to protect democracy and push back against democratic retrogression in the region.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. And Ransford, I remember in one of your submissions, you said that one of the things you like about being born from 1994 is you enjoy democracy and it affords you the opportunity to sit with elderly people to talk about democracy, to discuss the future of our country, right? So my question is, coming off that, what institutional reforms would make Ghana's democracy more resilient over the years, so that somebody born in 2004, yeah, I mean, a decade after you can still have this opportunity to talk about everything, to have the spaces to discuss the future of their country. So what institutional reforms would Ghana have to provide for the next generation?
All right, thank you very much. So if you look at our constitution, I love it. The reason why I love the constitution, even though some people have their issues with it, right, is that it has a very beautiful governance structure crafted for us. And so at a basic level, we have the local governance system. And I was so much happy when you read the Constitutional Review Committee report that was presented to the President, when those that prepared the report mentioned that when it comes to local government, all development is local. All development is local. So anyone who is born in a district, in a small community. And so I believe that we have the governance model, but then it is lacking a kind of philosophy. So what is the reason why we have all of this? What is the reason why we have municipal MMDAs, right? And I want to believe that we really need to go back and then redefine our local governance structure. In fact, when I read the report, I was not really happy with us putting the burden on another committee to be inaugurated for them to look at how they can implement some of these reforms. I want to believe that the Constitutional Review Committee could have just gone ahead to suggest some of these reforms in the report, so that we lift it from there to the referendum or whatever it is, then we just move ahead with it. Because we have the MMDCs, we have the assemblies, we have the unit committee, but they are not working. There is the National Popular Participation Framework, which says that whenever a district is making plans, it is supposed to heavily consult the residents. But then ask yourself, do they do that? Okay, and that is what Madam Tudor, right, was saying. There is what we call the citizenship deficit, because people are not being included in governance. So we are supposed to be consulted when there is the district budget hearing. If you look at the action plan, do they do that? So let's just go around the district and ask ourselves. Because it reflects in the Afrobarometer. When you ask a citizen or a resident that has he or she been able to contact the local, his local assembly member, about 60-something% say they have never. Never. That means that the contact is not there. And so I want to believe that when we want to solve this issue, we start from the local governance level. If you look at Rwanda, they have a very nice system I've forgotten the name actually. I was trying to find it, but time is not on my side. And it is working for them. It's more or less like a stewardship model. You come out, you bring your ideas, and they hold you to account to that, whatever you promise that you're going to achieve. Because our MMDCs are not appointed, are not elected by the people, they are accountable to the president. Because if they don't do what they are supposed to do, the president can remove them, right? And so you go to a particular community, and if there is something wrong, the only person who is available is your assembly member. And unfortunately, he has no power or anything to solve any of the problems. But the MMDCs who can actually allocate resources, they are not there, right? So the problem all is there. It's at the basic level, at the local government level, and when we bring all of them together, that is so you get a clear picture of what is wrong in the country. So I believe that we can go down there at the local government level.
Right, thank you. We'll quickly move on for lack of time. So, Mrs. Theodora Williams-Anti, you've been a strong advocate for women's participation in governance and peace building, and I think we saw that from your profile. What would you say that the inclusion of women does this strengthen democratic institutions and decision making? I think you've spoken extensively about youth participation, but how about women? Is it equally important?
Yes, it's very, very important. Like I mentioned earlier, women form about 50% of the population, and therefore their voices must be part of the decision. And there's a story which I hope you have all heard about positioning a borehole in the community. And so, as usual, the men sat down so that the government went and said, we want to have a borehole. They called the men, traditional leaders, and they sat down, they placed a borehole, they said, oh, we need a borehole, we must be in the center of the community so that people, it's not far from the homes. And they positioned it nicely. The women didn't go. Who fetches the water? The women and the young girls. They would rather go to the river, which is about 2 kilometers away, to go and fetch and walk and come. They will not go to the borehole. Why? Because it is when they are walking to the river that they get to chat, and they get to gossip. You say women gossip. That they get to gossip and they get to know what's happening, and they love that. And so they will not go to the one that is so close to their house, and they will not get to bond. They will not get to build social cohesion, which we need in all our societies. That's what it means to miss the voice of half of the population, because their concerns and how things affect them differently is not taken on board. And I hope that answer is okay for you. It works. So women's participation and women's inclusion is so important. Unfortunately, we now see it as a representation issue and participation. So when they, like this one, there's no woman, let's look for one woman. Then we look for one woman and put there. But irrespective of her capacity, irrespective of what she offers, and so then there is all that babble about, the women are not there, and the women are not competent, and all of these things. But we have not actually also taken time to give them the capacity they need to be leaders and also influence decisions. And when we put the women there, we must expect that they influence. We must expect that they lead, not just be there as a token, not just be there counting the numbers, but also bring their perspectives. We have issues in parliament now where people say, and even the women in parliament, they are not fighting for the women, or they are not advocating for gender-sensitive issues. Yes, because the fact that somebody is a woman does not mean the person is gender-aware, gender-responsive, all of these things. It doesn't mean that. Somebody must be trained and empowered to be able to see all these and have a lens for gender, or have a lens for women participation and representation and inclusion. If you are not trained, you might not get it. And so we must, there are men who are even more gender aware, more gender sensitive than women. And so it's not just about picking and bringing women or just about adding on the women. It's very, very important that we make sure that the women are there and are leading. And so, yes, women participation at both the local levels all the way to the national levels, not just in parliament and all of those things, but in all sort of community decision making. It is very, very important that we include women.
Thank you so much. And as a woman, I'm very proud of that answer because you're advocating for us. Please, a round of applause for our panelists. We're going to go into the audience Q&A. But before we do that, please permit me and ask all of us to go on a social media break. You know, Nyansa Institute is a very young think tank group and we need your support to create more visibility for us. So I'd like for you to take your phones out for just 1 minute and follow any of our social media channels. You can find us on Facebook, if that's the platform you're very active on. Please follow the Nyansa Institute for Strategic Dialogue. We're also on Instagram, if that's the platform you're very active on. Facebook, I already mentioned that. Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and YouTube. Please look for Nyansa Institute GH and follow us on this social media break. I'm just giving us about 1 minute to do that, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A. And I'd like to say thank you in advance as you follow us, as you reshare our posts, as you share us with your connections and your network. This is what our community is all about. Thank you for supporting us. So just 30 seconds to go, and then we continue with the event. Caleb, are we seeing likes and is our number of followers increasing? Thank you guys. So like I said, we've moved into the audience Q&A. If you have any question for our panelists or if you want to contribute to the conversation we've been having so far, this would be the great time to do so. We'd love to hear from as many of you as possible, but please remember to keep your questions brief. Through no fault of yours, we couldn't start early, but we also need to be mindful of time. It's a Friday night. So maybe you can raise your hand. We have some microphones around. Please give me the black one. Jessica, can you help us with the microphone? We have the two gentlemen. We have a lady here and a gentleman here and one at the back. 6, okay. Very brief. Panelists, please pay attention. This one is not for me.
My name is Monawaiti. Thank you. My name is Monawaiti, and a good presentation. My question goes to Ransford. Based on the policy accountability, based on your experience, what do you suggest should be the key decision that should be taken to address for the democratic growth of Ghana? And then my question will go to Doc. Another one. What should be the mindset of people who aspire to be leaders of our nation so that our political, our democratic credentials can be sustained? Thank you.
I think we'll take 2 more and then you'll answer that, then we'll come back to the last set. So, yes. And then the lady after that.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Ishmael Hamiapia. I'm the Executive Director of Onville Impact Trust. Okay, my question goes to Doc. He says something that we want democracy, but yet we lack the things that sustain democracy. The question I want to ask here is that how should democracy be delivered to produce results or for its benefits to be felt? Then I have two questions. The other question has to go with Madam. She was talking about the difference between state security and human security. And the question I want to ask is that how can state security be handled so that it does not override human security? Because we are in a situation where some situations in this country where the elites find their way, get their way with everything, while the vulnerable suffer or the grassroots go through a whole lot of challenges. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Adiko. A student at UPS in level 100 and actually grateful to be here. So Auntie, please, my question to you is very simple. I heard so much about the youth. Yes, and I'm actually offering public relations in school. So my question is very simple. We have a lot of youth who has the perception of, actually a lot of youth aren't in school, as you said earlier, and it's very true. Some of them are struggling with financial issues and things. But we also have some that has a perception of school isn't their thing, like as we are in school, isn't there's our work, like they want to get money. So as you said, I see you have a lot of them who get opportunities not for anything but for money. So I want to ask that with such issues, so how are you going to change such perception of most youth? Yes, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, we'll take the questions and then we'll take 3 more from here.
Okay, so quickly, one, what should be the mindset of those who seek public service? I know it is easier said than done, but we really should be driven by country first. There's a classic book in public administration written by an American author called What Motivates Bureaucrats, right? Why do we do the things we do? And there are times where our public officials do not give us the feeling that it is about the people and it's about the country, which is where sometimes I disagree with the Grant's what about partisanship, right? Because sometimes it feels like it is a spoiled system designed to capture and distribute just among a particular partisan group as a result of successful election. But that mindset should really be, this is about the country, this is about its people and how we address our key challenges. How should democracy, be delivered so that citizens can feel it? One of the things I don't think we have done well in our democracy architecture is the administrative part of it. How we design policies, how we implement them, how we evaluate them, and bring them back to even say, where do we do course correction, right? So that we can address our most pressing public problems. I think that for me is, if we can really meet people at their pinch points, the bread and butter issues, you would see a change in how we continue to feel about democracy and whether it is truly deliberate. Thank you.
Doc, I have questions for you myself. Anyway, so human security and security, how can we ensure that state security and how it's handled does not override human security? So a key example is how we are, as a state, approaching the issue of violent extremism. So you know that currently in Ghana, we are surrounded by countries that are going through terrorism and extremist attacks. Togo towards the north with Ghana, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire has its own fair share. Benin is also having its own fair share. So people keep asking, why is Ghana not attacking us? Say, why? You want us to? You want them to attack us. But so we have, Ghana has created the Fusion Center at the National Security Secretariat. It used to be a ministry. And this Fusion Center has a human security approach to preventing, what we call preventing violent extremism. We have countering violent extremism and preventing. And so it has a human security approach where it's building roads as a fusion center. It's not, I mean, we have the Ministry of Roads and all of that, but I suppose it's trying to ensure that all the other human security needs are met in deprived communities, especially border communities. So they are building roads, they are building boreholes, they are building schools in places and spaces where we call ungoverned spaces, which are areas that extremists can capture. And so that is a human security approach. It is difficult to get government to leave the state-centric approach to security and then do human security. It's very, very difficult. But with Ghana being surrounded, governments have found space to do that. And so that's why organizations like us exist, to ensure that we keep advocating that our human security needs be heard or be taken care of. Because if you leave governments alone, they will focus on protecting their regime-centered. They will focus on protecting and making sure that no coup d'etat happens to overthrow the government and the president and all their largesse. No, they don't want that to happen. And so, if you leave governments alone, it's difficult. But we need citizens, and that's why we need very, very inclusive democratic processes to make sure that citizens are calling for accountability. And if you ask me, how can we strengthen our democracy, it's accountability. That's when we ask for accountability, we get it. And when our ministers and ministries give us their plans, they come and account for it. The accountability is not just about money, but even plans and all of those things and policies. And so that is what I would say to that one. With the perception, for most developed countries, education is a given. You go to school and progression is almost a given. It's normal. You don't think of truncating your education and then go and look for money. But where the system fails you, where the system is failing you, like we are discussing, that's where you are looking for how to make quick money. And when you watch a lot of Nigerian movies, that's what happens. But we are looking to make quick money, we are looking to lift our families out of poverty quickly. And so in fact, I had a situation like that when my brother used to say, it's not about school, it's not about education. Oh, sister, so you're talking too much, I want to make money. But that's what he went back to school because he found the use of it. And so the system must work. And that's what these big people are here to do. To make sure that the system works and help young people focus and believe that when you're educated, you have a better future and better opportunities. When the system is not working and we see a small elite or a few people making a lot of money, then we feel that we have to also use the back door to make the money. So the system must work, and that's your job. As a level 100 students, we have to make sure the system works, and that's why we are here.
Thank you so much. The system must work. We had about 3 hands.
So let me do that briefly. So yeah, how do we ensure policy accountability? When you go online, you just Google Catonomics or catonomics.org. In fact, they have quite a number of suggestions, including making sure that we strengthen our independent audit institutions. You know what happens is that it is after the MDAs have spent their money, then Auditor General comes in to audit. And at the end of the day, it is just recently that institutions like Imani and then I think the West African Civil Society Institute, here, WASI, have been leading these local accountability networks for them to follow up on the reports and what they've been doing to, especially when the General recommends that the money should be taken back, right? Yeah. So it's more or less like we've not been doing it the right way. If the money has been fast spent, what else? Okay, it's gone. Even the recommendations, and then see what happens at the Public Accounts Committee. Okay, everything that you're asking is in a report. Everything that you're asking is so. Even in-house, we are discussing whether it's even the right approach to discussing the Auditor General's report, because anyone can pick it up and read and see that this person has been named to have caused financial or fiscal irregularities or has caused financial loss. So should the money be taken back? It's in the report. Why is it that we convey a committee to call the person and then ask the person the same questions? It is there. The person did not retire the interest. The person made payments without any supporting documents. It is there in the report. So why are we asking it again? Okay. Then again, it also recommends that we grow national policy audience. And I believe that is an example of what we are doing here. We need people who understand policy matters to discuss policy matters. And that discussing it, we should be able to review what government is doing and also insist on continuing projects. It shouldn't end with a change in government. And that means that we should go into the fabric of the constitution. It is there. And government is not obliged to continue the previous government's project. And so the constitution must also have some kind of amendment so that we know that our resources are being put to good use. And so for me, aside what the economists are saying, I would recommend that we have people who are able to say that, okay, this is how the project is going, this is how we think would best serve our interest. And so let's change it and then do it this way. If people have been empowered to voice out and then contribute to policy matters, I think they will be able to do what they think and what they want, or how they think things should go. Thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause for that. Face questions. We'll take the last round of questions. And I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hands. Yes, but we'll take these 3 gentlemen, 2 at the back, and then you will sign us off. Yes. So the 3 here, 2 at the back, and then and there's you 2. Okay.
Okay. My name is Eugene Watson. From Daily Guide Network. Doc, we're talking about citizen participation in our politics, or in our governance. So, some senior citizens have petitioned the Supreme Court to abolish the delegate system, where you find some few people going to select leaders for the entire nation to take a decision on. Now, I want to ask, if Supreme Court decides to go with the request of these senior citizens, is it going to help our democracy? Is it going to strengthen it and allow more people to engage in politics or in our democracy? Yeah, thank you.
Ambassador Francis Piscobia is my name. I do Medium Construction. I'm a climate change advocate and youth leader. Listening to you, I have one contribution and one question. On national level, the ultimate measure for democracy successfully will be whether young people can access quality education, meaningful job, entrepreneurship opportunities, and pathway to prosperity. I give an example. I live in Namahia is on the Adenta Dubuwa Road. And most of the young people now are doing Okada. So last week, I was discussing a conversation with a friend. I don't have evidence, but I told him that if you check most of the communities that the young people are doing Okada now, community thefts have reduced. Because most of these young people were the ones who were in the house mostly, they were not doing anything. But now, if you come to my community, most of them do Yukada 24/7. If you get there 12 midnight, you get them, they're on the streets, so they don't have time to be engaged in. I've also realized that it has also reduced teenage pregnancy. Because it was these young guys who were in the house, and when our young ladies come from the secondary school, because you are at work, you are here in this hotel, your young girl is in the house, and the young boy too is in the house. They go and do the things they want to do. But most of these guys, as I said, are engaged. So when we engage them meaningfully economically, they will even forget about being a metro man for this what you are talking about. Then on the regional bloc, Ghana needs to build competitive national advantages. Ghana's strengths as a regional bloc anchor will not be only democracy, but developing globally competitive strengths in agriculture, agroforestry, digital innovation, green economic industries, logistics and human capital development. We were doing evidence to action conference in the Ise, and 3 days ago I met the former Kenyan Financial Minister of Finance, and we were having some of these discussions. And one of the things he told me is that in Ghana we don't have school for customer care. So most of our customer care in the hotels, he mentioned hotels because he has been coming to Ghana. He realized that if he compares it to Kenya, we don't have, but they have strategically have institutions that train people for customer care. So when you get to their hotels and places, you see that they are working. These are the things that we can invest. When we invest in the young people to take advantage of this, they will forget about the 20 Ghana and a bottle of apatechi to follow an MP to go and fight. Now my question to Dr. Osai Kwapo, I want to humbly ask, if Ghana's democracy disappears tomorrow, what will West Africa lose? And if this answer, or the question you don't have a clear answer, what additional value must Ghana create in business, entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership to become truly indispensable to the region? Should I take it again?
Okay, you can call me Ofayo. We training each other. I voted since 1992. 2024 was the only time I didn't vote. When my first job, we asked to write an essay, "Is democracy the panacea for economic development for Ghana?" I wrote copiously. I got the job. If you ask me now to write the same essay, I am not sure I'll get the job. Because the main indices for democracy, for economic development, I haven't seen them. Now, why did I not vote? I come from a political family. My uncle has been a 3-term MP. The question I ask myself, what is in it for me? I voted since 92. What is it? Aside what the young man said, freedom. Freedom to enjoy my fufu and drink my club beer. Aside that, what else? We have gotten back. I mean, you would have loved to be in the 1980s. Because you weren't listening to Michael Jackson. You didn't see how they play football. However, those who were disciplined are happy to have left that period. What has happened now with the freedom is indiscipline. You talk about Okada. See how they run. I am in a space where we talk to, we deal with businesses, farmers, and all that. There's lack of labor. So that's another paradox. Where we talk about unemployment, but if you go to businesses, they lack labor. People are employed, they get their first paycheck, boom, they are gone. They will rather want to do soccer bets The young ladies send me small money. Those are the serious threats to our democracy and discipline. So when you talk about inclusion, talk about preparing those that we want to include to be ready when the opportunity comes. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, my name is Ambassador Chief Dr. Adams. Working with UN Peacekeeping International and conflict resolution, and I'm also a human rights activist. Alright. First of all, I would like to commend our three panelists for their tremendous education of governance and democracy. But firstly, my question is, would you? It goes to the three of you, our panelists. Would you say democracy didn't lead to corruption? And secondly, the issue of winner takes all is making our system of governance less fun. And I would like the three of you to prove more light on this. Thank you.
So we'll take the last two, and then our panelists can.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is LinkxtaTV. I'm the Youth Government Affairs Deputy Head for the United Nations Youth Association Ghana. Since Mr. Choriwa was speaking more on the inclusion of youth, I would like to ask this question that links to the youth as well. Most of the times we see young people, when they assume into formal political roles, they often conform to the same systems and practices they previously criticized, resulting in persistence of the same societal challenges. So I want to ask that, is there something that we are about, we don't know? Is there a blockage between between the formulation of policies and then implementing it? So I want to know if there is a blockage. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we'll take the last one, and then our panelists can answer.
Okay, my name is Philip. I'm a Ghanaian. I've listened this evening people talk about the youth. I've also listened about involving them. Of late, there is a trend that is growing in Ghana, and that is cyber bullying. Every small boy, small lady has created a platform in the name of skits, in the name of read, in the name of what, and what. Yes, recently we signed a cybersecurity act, and we have a law now. We have seen the police and the security agencies arresting people who are abusing this form of, let me say, government, because it is a way of democracy where people speak their mind. But my issue is, when it is A in power, all the A people who are speaking, the security people don't know them. They don't see them. But when it is B in opposition, the security people open their eyes and their ears to the B people and they start arresting them. My problem is that how can we level this up? Because it is a threat of late. When one is arrested, you see a lot of people party, whether he is in Tuna or he is in Kassim or wherever he is. You see people organizing because he wear a shirt called A or shirt B. So how can we, with this involvement of the youth and all that, how can we get the security people to see when A is speaking, to see when B is speaking? How can we level it up so that it doesn't become a threat to our democracy? Thank you.
Okay, we'll have a small one. This one is top.
The delegate
Just
system.
a top up.
Oh, sorry.
And then you.
Okay, so thank you for your insightful delivery. I'm Joe Kanja Walbeck from UPS, lecturer there.
just want to find out, is there a relationship between democracy and discipline?
Heavy questions. I'm glad I'm not a panelist. Over to you, John.
The delegate system we've abolished. I'm a big fan of open primaries. We keep talking about the influence of money in some of these elections. I've always argued that it is more difficult to try and buy an entire constituency in order to win. So I just hope that the court will rule to abolish the delegate system. What will West Africa lose, God forbid, should Ghana's democracy disappear? Despite all of its imperfections, I think one of the things that West Africa will lose is having, for me, stronger examples of democratic development since the 90s, right? How far we've come, especially as I mentioned before, the respect for term limits, the fact that we've been able to protect it without major periods of disintegration, right? That especially where we are positioned to that. I mean, I really haven't, even confronted that question because I've always taken it as a given that our democracy will always be there. But I think this is one of the questions I'll even have to think through it further because, like I said, I take it as a given that the democracy will always be there. So yeah, I'm grateful for that question because it forces us to say, have we become complacent or we think we'll always have it and therefore we never think, God forbid, what? Democracy giving birth to corruption? I don't think so. I think it was former President before who said corruption is as old as Adam, right? But I also believe that our democracy has become very vulnerable and susceptible to some of these corrupt practices. So elections, for example, like vote buying, all of those things. Thank you.
I guess I'll continue from there to say democracy is supposed to create and provide institutions that will prevent and minimize corruption. And when those institutions, and we have them, and that's what we say in Ghana, that we have all the laws, we have all the institutions. We have them, mention them, we have them. But when these institutions are weak, then corruption thrives. And so I will also say Obama said that we need strong institutions and not strong men. And so democracy is not supposed to produce corruption. It's supposed to rather help minimize it. But when those institutions are weak, like we have them now, then corruption thrives. Winner takes all. I think I'll leave that to the academics.
But I would like to do more like this.
Oh, the winner takes all. Okay, please. Okay, so but then youth. In fact, there's a joke that when you are invited to the table, okay, when you are sitting and the people are eating at the dining table, and you are shouting, I'm not getting some, I'm not getting some. When you get to the table, you eat more than this and this. That's the thing with the young people who get into politics, and then they tend to do but it's not just young people. I mean, we talk about civil society. People in civil society, when they get into government, they don't see the difference anymore. But the thing is, it's all about the system. And when the system is not working, they say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so when the system is not working and you have power, then it doesn't work. So we really, really need to make our systems work so that whoever goes into politics, whether they are young or old, still works within the system and then it benefits everybody. Yes, I think those are the things I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I was able to capture clarity and no more questions, so I will just briefly address them. Okay, I think Dr. Zekapa has already addressed the delegate system, so I'll pass that. On the question that our brother asked, okay, with the Okada and all of those things. In economics, you have something we call the information problem. And it's the individual that is able to ascertain it best. And so I hold the view that when individuals are able to find economic opportunities, it is up to government to ensure that those opportunities or those economic opportunities or whatever they're engaging in is legal, or they try to regulate or legitimize it, right? Like the Okada like this. Okay. For a very long time, we've seen our mothers by the roadside at Mokola. What is the government doing about it? We've seen people with truck or truck, as we usually call it. What is the government? That is their hustle, right? What is the government doing about it? People have been hawking by the roadside for decades. What is the government doing about it? These are what has sustained a lot of families, has put a lot of people through school. Okay, so I hold the view that as a government, if you've not been able to provide the job opportunities to people, whatever that they are finding themselves or whatever that they are trying to make a living out of, be interested in that. Try and see how best you can improve upon it. That is what I call legitimize the hustle. Else, I don't know what government is supposed to do. Because from a free market perspective, and as a person who thinks government should be limited, I don't think government should be building factories and employing people, because it is not sustainable. But if people have solved the information problem, found something that they think is economically beneficial to them, then government should be interested in that and make sure that it works for them. That is the question. That is the answer I have for that question. And then on the question around democracy, I'm putting the question back to those who asked the question. Okay, is it a force of democracy? Absolutely not. We recently gave. Is it a fault of democracy? No. Like corruption, is it a force of democracy? No, because recently the road minister tried to justify why he signed a number of road contracts under certificates of agency. Now, certificates of what? Agency. No road in Ghana has been built under a year. So where are we rushing to? What is certificates of agency? You use three years to build roads, and you say that you give the contract out as a certificate and certificates of agency. Isn't it for you want to blame democracy for this? No, you can't.
What? In your education, you make mention of a mediator, correct?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Me saying democracy has given birth to corruption. Would you say if you have a credible mediator, would solve this issue?
Oh, obviously.
Exactly. That's what I want to hear.
Okay.
That's why.
Yes, sure. And then the winner takes all. Sometimes I struggle to understand this when it comes to the winner takes all. Is it that when a party wins power, it appoints its members to positions or something like that?
When a party wins a power or takes on power, the government in question, whatever party they will be, has a power of all the resources. If he or she has that resource, then there's no way, there's no fairness in the country. Are you getting what I'm saying? You can put somebody there, or your brother there, maybe any or whatever, and the person may not perform better. Are you getting me?
Yes.
I don't want to mention particulars.
So it only becomes a problem when the person does not perform better.
Exactly.
So that is why we need checks in place. Yes, we need checks in place. So if something is not going well, what are the checks in place? For example, if a minister issues road contracts, signs road contracts, and it's a certificate of agency, what kind of checks can we put in place to say that no, what you've done is wrong? Okay, and that is what sometimes is missing. And for me, I believe that as thinkers and people interested in governance and the future of our country, these are some of the problems that we should all come together and find solutions to. And I believe that in the future, or as we are going, Young Center for Strategic Dialogue is going to take the lead on some of these things, right? I think, and is there a relationship between democracy and discipline? Yes. It depends on what kind of relationship you are looking for. Is it as a
What do you think?
well, I think there is correlation, not immediate causation, right? Yes, because if you're able to practice democracy very well, right now we don't have a democracy. It's only electoral democracy. The EIU says that ours is a flawed democracy, and so whatever tenets or whatever principles that full democracy and then liberal democracy comes with it, we don't have it anymore. And so we cannot really say that we have a full democracy that countries like Norway, Estonia are now practicing. And so yes, if you're able to move away from some of these, I don't want to use any words, but what we are experiencing, if you're able to move beyond that and then see how best we can build our country, I think it is going to have that kind of ripple effect on almost everything, even in our homes as well. Thank you.
Did you want to say something? I can see some thoughts.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this democracy and discipline. It's very, very interesting. I was reading something that said democracy is not a right, it's a responsibility. So that we have responsibilities even though we have freedoms in democracy. But you go to a country like, you go to a country like America, and there is a lot of indiscipline. As in, people cross the road anyhow. It's surprising. You go to Europe, and there is a lot of discipline. They are also practicing democracy, but the discipline levels are very, very high. And so, yes, there is a relation, but like you said, I think it's how we handle it. And I don't know, but I think it's very contextual, I should say. It's very, very contextual. Yeah.
I think some question came from our dear students. Yes, I'm also a student, and I think some of us, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. Now, you pay dues, right? And then you yourself, you go to the ballot box and then select someone who came to the 100 with you to lead you. And the person has access to those monies and is able to spend like that. By the time the person leaves office, and then you people, you call the person His Excellency and Her Excellency. Somebody is at 100 with. And some of you call yourselves honorable. And you spend student dues carelessly. Some students, leaders leave office buying cars and all of that. When I was doing my masters, they came to our class and I told them point blank, if you don't subject your opinions to vigorous debates, we are not going to take part in that election. And so we organized a debate for them. And then we queried them. Unfortunately, the program was just 1 year, and so we were not back on campus. But I think that the civil society organization has been so much focused on the national level. The rods, we are cultivating them in the schools. That is what, because the money is there. Automatic, the school collects it for them to spend. And so it's not like they are raising any money. Our people, the people that we went to level 100 with, we started school with, when you get to 200, 300, we vote for them, they come to power and then they eat our money. Let me use that expression. They eat our monies. Because you give them the power to. And then we don't have the power to question them. And that is a problem. So I think that as we think about the national issues, we should go down there too. Because when we are able to, and you see, funny enough, they don't work all. They will contest SRC, contest NUCs, now they have to go USAG, they have NUCs National, and from there they will go and do GRASAG. From GRASAG, and they'll go GRASAG National, NASPA National. So they've never worked before, they are in the student space, and they've been spending students' dues anyhow, mercilessly. And these are the people who are coming to lead us, who are going to use that money to contest for MP. And they will come, and these are people who have never built anything before. They have never worked. So how? And then some of them are building estates, are building houses, are buying cars. Where do they get their money from? They've never worked before. So it's our problem. I'm a student, you're also a student. This is what we've empowered them to do.
And it's unfortunate that the think tanks and then the anti-corruption agencies and all the anti-corruption think tanks are not focused down there, they are not focused on the students. I don't know whether maybe the university environment does not permit the permeation of anti-corruption agencies to the school system. Maybe it's one of the things that we are supposed to talk about, but then we need a lot of work to be done. Thank you.
Absolutely, a round of applause for our panelists and for yourself for those very engaging questions. So we had this audience poll that we wanted to do. I don't know, are you too tired? Should we skip it? Or it's just 3 questions. Would you indulge us? Okay, great. So, what was your second question? Doc will answer that after the event when you catch it one-on-one. How about that? Yes, so that.
Yeah, madam, this is the question. Say you would like to ask.
Right, so just 3 questions. We're going to show by hands. That's the first question. Tell me what you think, what you believe in, and we'll count. The majority carries the vote. So Jessica and Princess, please come around. The first question, and this is very interesting. What do you think is the biggest threat to democracy in West Africa? So for those of us who think it's weak institutions or corruption, or you think it's youth unemployment, political polarization, or insecurity, we're going to raise our hands. So the question, there's also all the above. That's something critical. So what is the biggest threat to democracy in West Africa? Those of us who think it's weak institutions, please show by hands. Please, you can only vote once. Weak institutions, that's what I think. Weak institutions. Gone. How many do you get? Madam can't count. Okay. Alright. Those who think that our biggest threat to democracy is corruption, please raise your hands. Corruption. Corruption. Thank you. Corruption. Those who think it is youth unemployment. Youth unemployment. No one. Okay. Political polarization. Okay. Insecurity. Madam Auntie, you have to go to because you need a security aspect. All of it. Okay. Thank you. All of these things. Absolutely. Thank you so much. So we go to the second question. I think was part of the theme for this discussion. What do you think is Ghana's greatest democratic strength? Is it our peaceful elections? Is it our strong institutions? Is it the active civil society organizations we have? Is it the media freedom? And I think all the other freedoms we've mentioned, freedom of expression, or it's a citizen participation. So we're going to start. What is Ghana's greatest democratic strength? For those of us who think it's because of our peaceful elections. Remember, we've had 8 peaceful elections back to back to back. Is that what is our greatest democratic strength? Please let's show by hands. Peaceful elections. Our greatest strength. Thank you. Those who think it is our strong institutions. That's our greatest democratic strength. Please, let's see. You've already said that, that's true. How about the fact that we have an active civil society organization in Ghana? That's what I think that. Yeah, I think we have that. Okay, media freedom. Media freedom. 2. Okay, citizen participation. 2. Meanwhile, majority of us, I don't remember the last time I saw my MP. Citizen participation. participation. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. 3. Thank you very much. Now we are moving to the last session and then we end this session. What is the most important factor for protecting democracy? What is the most important factor for protecting democracy? Strong institutions, accountable leadership, economic opportunity, active citizens, as we are trying to be here, and regional cooperation. How do we protect this democracy that we have and most people envy? So I'm going to start. Is it strong institutions that will protect our democracy? For those of us who say yes, please, let's raise our hands. Strong institutions. Can we go to it? You see? Because accountable leadership, I am there. You automatically have accountable leadership. Oh. Have you? 4. Okay. 5. Okay. Economic opportunity. Economic opportunity. Economic opportunity. Active citizens. Citizens who will demand accountability and not just take things fala. Active citizens. Oh. My dilemma. And then the last one, regional cooperation. Yeah, this one I was saying, do you some? Let's solve our problems before. That's easy way. Okay, so thank you so much for indulging us in this poll. Please, a round of applause for yourself. And I'm going to put our panelists on the spot. One final question before we go to the next round and then wrap up. Please complete this sentence. That means very short answer. Ghana can be a democratic anchor for West Africa if Ghana can be a democratic anchor for West Africa if John.
If it can deepen its democratic institutions.
Thank you.
If it can strengthen its democratic institutions and make them inclusive.
Deepen, strengthen, inclusive.
If we ensure policy accountability and enhance local governance.
Right. Another interesting dimension. Please, a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. We are almost come to the end of the event. But like I said, I will crave your indulgence for this next activity. It's very important, and that's the feedback session. Right after the feedback session, we will call our executive director to deliver the closing remarks. So I can assure you that we're almost done. But you know what, Nyansa, we're very committed to making sure that our dialogue series really captures what matters most to you, our participants, and our audience. And one of the best ways to capture that is through your feedback on our events. And so there's a QR code on the screen, but we also have QR codes on the desk. Jessica and Princess, please pass them around, take the ones behind, and please scan the QR code. We are breaking just 3 minutes. 3 minutes for you to give us feedback on today's event. There are a couple of questions in there. This will take 2 to 3 minutes. Please, let's all scan and give us your honest feedback on the questions that we have on there. And from that, we will invite our executive director to close us. After his closing remarks, we'll have a group photo, and then we'll all head over to that table to have some quicker bites, and we'll continue to network. So I'm watching my time. It is, I'm maybe too shy to say the time. It is 9 o'clock. It was never our intention to keep you here. It's 9 o'clock. At 9:03, our executive director will take the mic to give us the closing remarks. Please fill the survey for us. It's really important for us That's the way we know how to improve our dialogue events, how to make the experience better for you, and how to grow this community. So if you need assistance with a scan of the QR code, please lift your hand. Our team will be. It's gone. Celestina, please put it on the screen so that people can scan. We're about 30 in this room, so we expect about 30 feedback forms.
I'm watching it. 2 more minutes. A minute more. Caleb, please come.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for indulging us. I think for those of you who have not completed, you can continue with it whilst we take our closing remarks, because we don't want to keep you here unnecessarily long. So, Samuel, over to you.
Thank you, Mama. Distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, we are building a community here, and I'm glad that you belong to it. As we bring this evening's dialogue to a close, allow me to express my sincere gratitude to everyone who has contributed to making it a success. First, join me to thank John, Theodora, and Raspo. I believe you are with me that they have done a fantastic job. Let's appreciate them. Indeed, your thoughtful contributions have enriched our understanding of the issues that we discussed this evening. I would also like to thank our wonderful moderator, Mame, who has gathered this communication with skill. Mame, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Tonight's dialogue has reinforced one thing, that is our belief that there is immense value in creating spaces for leaders, for people like yourselves, to have a conversation, to talk about the things that matter to us, to have that discourse around where Ghana can be, where we are. We are a nation meant for greatness, but we can only get there when we have got this kind of conversations. Let's be truthful to ourselves. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's drive a change. We can do it. Nobody will come and change Ghana. None of them. We have to do it, if not for us, for our children. This dialogue is part of a larger journey for the Youngster Institute, and we remain committed to providing a platform for thoughtful engagement on governance, economic development, security, leadership, and the critical issues shaping our future. On behalf of my team, I thank you once again for your support and your participation. I look forward to welcoming you to our future series. Have a wonderful evening. Travel safely wherever you came from, and God bless Ghana, God bless West Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samuel, and I promise you we're almost done. First off, we would all move here to take a group photo. I think it's been a wonderful engagement with you and want to capture the moment. So we'll all come up here. But also another passionate appeal. Please, I'm going to be sending all of you a request to join our WhatsApp channel. Please, who will join if I send it? All of us? Yeah, great, thank you. So please, when you see my invitation, don't ignore it. We want to continually engage with you, and we're very glad that you've come here. Yes, and even continue the things that you couldn't say. And John will be on there, so you can blast him with all the questions. So on that note, our photographers are ready. I'd like to say thank you so much. Right after the photo session, we can continue with the networking, and then we can have some refreshments as well. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please let's have all of you.
Are you saying something?
Yeah.
Are we afraid?
Yeah, everyone is afraid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we can say something.
For the first one, maybe we can just take a break. And after that. Okay, so for the next one, you can all say yes. Alright, so 3, 2, 1, go.
Yes, sir.
Now we'll do the second one. So, okay, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So please, let's head over to the table for small refreshment.
You have to